Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to the Old School Weekly Q&A. I'll be hosting this week, Mod Wolf, instead of Mod Archie's upstairs at the moment. Probably
He's watching.
Probably watching, yeah. On the sofa this week,
Hey,
we
Archie.
have Mod Aiza,
Yo.
we have Mod Ash,
Hello.
and Mod Kieran.
Hello.
Mod Ghost is about to slide onto the couch right now, and he will also be doing a sneak peek of the week for everything that we have, pretty much shown in the past, well, few months really, of Theatre of Blood. So we have that to go through. We're also going to have Mod Surma joining us again from audio. We have the final boss fight audio to preview right at the very end of the stream, and he'll be coming on answering some audio questions just before then. And a couple of shout-outs before I start with questions. A quick reminder, the Theatre of Blood login screen competition deadline is tomorrow. Any last-minute entries should have them in as soon as possible. And then by Friday, we'll be polling the top 4 entries that you guys can choose for next week's update, Theatre of Blood. Deadman Summer Final week begins on Saturday, the 23rd of June. The finals are held at ESL Leicester on the 30th of June. Tickets are once again sold out. Very popular event. I think it's mainly due to the open bar. But more news on that in the coming weeks. Summer Specials live. 3 for 2 deals. Cheap bond purchase as well in-game if you open up your bond interface. And that is everything I need to announce. So we'll get straight onto the questions. Oh, welcome back, Ash, by the way. You've been on holiday.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Missed you.
And this one's from Saphiro07. Why does Vespula sometimes activate before entering the room? Can it be changed to not do this?
Frankly, she's interacting with stuff in the room because she wants to, rather than because you've turned up. So once you get to that section of the cave, not inside her room, but once the cave's basically loaded, she gets on with what she wants to do. While players find it very inconvenient, of course, that she does this, because they'd rather she obligingly waited till she walked into the room before she started interacting with her scenery to impregnate the grubs or whatever it is she does. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what she does, but players would find it a lot more convenient if she waited for them. And while she doesn't have a particular reason to do so, we've said that, or at least I've said, that in future Qual Batch 2 raids, I'd be up for restricting her just for the convenience that people are wanting, because she's not one of the nice rooms, and one way of making her a bit nicer is to just stop her until you've got into the room to permit her to interact with her scenery.
Good response. Next question's from David. He didn't actually have a last name, but I didn't want to announce that on the stream. So
Was it obscene or something?
no, it was just his full, actual, real-life name, which I thought was a bit questionable. Thoughts on a Rag and Bone Man Part 3 with bones from bosses? It would be a good way of introducing players to each boss.
No.
I was say a good
I'm
or
gonna say straight up.
frustrating way.
If we include Krill Tsutsaroth,
Close, it's rough.
I like, as much as it could be a good way to introduce people to bosses, I don't think Rag and Bone Man is it in any capacity.
I really hated Rag and Bone.
Heck no.
It's not my favourite quest.
do you remember the baby basilisk incident? Any of you?
Is it only certain ones could? Oh no, it just could never drop it, right?
They
don't exist.
The bone was only dropped from baby basilisks, and none of the basilisks in the game are baby basilisks. And yeah, one of the more unfortunate bugs we've had over the years.
Awkward bug. Deadvitu asked, is there any way to implement any form of anti-disconnection mechanics for hardcore Iron Men? Dying with something out of your control doesn't feel great.
I don't know if there's anything we can really do about it, to be honest.
How would you, say there was, theoretically, how would you prevent someone just be like...
Pulling the plug.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to run out of supplies, so just pull the plug or X-log.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay.
It's kind of unfortunate, because by the time the game detects, this player hasn't sent any signals for a while, they're probably disconnected or something. It's the for a while during which they probably died, because
As soon as
one ill-timed press which can cause you to be dead. So by the time the game thinks it's suspicious that you're not talking, you're quite likely to be dead.
pretty much
So
as soon as it does realise, it'll kick you offline.
Pretty much. I mean, what it's not going to be able to do is say, well, you died after being not sending any signals for this much time, so we'll roll you back to what state you were in at that point. Because, firstly, we don't have that stored on demand. Secondly, if we did, you'd probably start doing things like, I don't know, trading away all your items to your mates and then getting rolled back to that state when you'd still got them. We would find it rather challenging to make an automated thing that will catch you and sort you out and not immediately open the doors to a ton of abuse I'm afraid.
I agree. It's a crap way to lose your hardcore Iron Man, though.
Yeah.
What a way to go. Randalicious has a great question here, actually, and we have a pretty stacked Theatre of Blood couch, so it's a good one. What has each person's favourite part of their contribution to Theatre of Blood been?
For me, it was writing the dev progress update blog. I really enjoyed putting that together and seeing the information that came back from each member of the team. But well, I always do this. This is more than one thing every single time, but I would have to say that the last 2 days experiencing with the players that we've had in, playtest the Theatre of Blood since the initial changes that we did following feedback from streamers and influencers and stuff, they've been absolutely fantastic. So big shout outs to Classics, Latius, Auntie Mabel, 124456, and what's his in-game name?
Oh, this is awkward. Oh, it's so awkward.
I don't want to release his name because I can't. Oh, and Dead Wilson. Thank you.
Aye.
I think for me, it was probably working on the final boss, Lady Verzuk. Like so many different ideas for mechanics, but bringing them all together and making a boss fight out of it, always the most fun part of any project. Seeing people then play it and die to it, it's just the best moment. I expect the best moment will be actually seeing it go out and actually having players go through the content and experiencing it. And I got to see that, the last couple of days with the guys in, and it's an awesome feeling.
Ash?
Just taking the designs we'd got up front and for some of the rooms and interpreting them into something that seemed kind of coherent and made a full room out of it, and then getting to see people have a go at it, and when they said too easy, okay, what should we add to make them do that faster? Let's add a thing that does this while you're trying to get through the obstacles, and that'll put some time pressure on you. Certainly made quite a difference, at least, without going into details about what it actually is. I just like getting to make stuff, see people use it, and then tweak it, and try and make it properly hard for them.
Ghost?
I like characters. Been making lots of characters for this. That's been fun.
What's your favourite?
Well, mainly just doing the animations on Verzuk's been my favourite part.
Any reason why?
Because they look incredible.
When we create assets, we have feedback reviews.
Do you have a mic?
There's one stuck to his shirt.
Yeah, I've got a mic.
Oh, okay.
They can hear me.
We good?
My bad.
Okay.
It's okay. I'll start all of that. No, I won't really. I'll just carry on where I left off. So we have feedback reviews with the lead artists in the department, and the lead animator's been teaching me over the last kind of 6 months to a year how to make these punctuated animations with his feedback.
Yeah.
So it's nice to actually put all of that into practice, and we had a feedback review the other day. He said, yeah, those animations really sort of characterise what I was trying to say in my feedback.
Good.
So it's nice to actually take some artistic feedback, then implement it and be successful at doing that. So the animations on Verzuk, I think, have been my favourite part.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that's some good answers.
There's one other thing I enjoyed, maybe a bit too much. While you're in there, you will occasionally run into bits of text sent to you from vampires. And I wrote one of these, which, Kieran read it the next day, and his question was, Ash, what were you on? I wrote it to try and make your skin crawl, and that you just cringe. And
Don't say cringe.
I think they'll find out what I mean soon enough. But certainly watching my colleagues run into that bit of text, and some of the visiting players, I think I got it about as creepy as I wanted.
Great. All right, I'm going to move on because everyone's going to spam haha now. BD asked, can the top of the Theatre of Blood be turned into an agility course after a taste of hope, perhaps giving the blood mark to purchase the black graceful that Mod Rye made?
Was this an actual question, or do you just
so
that we could discuss?
This was an actual question.
Okay. Well, yeah. How convenient.
I know.
What a coincidence.
Well, actually, I wrote the first part of the question, and then Mod Rye tacked on the bit at the end saying, perhaps giving the blood mark that I made.
Oh, so it was manipulated.
He manipulated that question a little bit.
Yeah. I think Mod Rye is really trying hard with this one, isn't he? It's like
but they're so excited about it.
it looks cool. It definitely looks cool. It's just I think it's got to definitely come from agility, and I think we said there's definitely potential post-release to look at putting in a course. Definitely not pre-release because it will need balancing.
Yeah.
and making sure that it's right and that we get to talk to you guys about what level it should be, how much XP and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm not against it.
We can barely even, we can't even really say it's because we don't have the ability to make the roof or something, because it's pretty much halfway done from the quest. We need a drop down point of some point and we're done.
Yeah.
How many vertical levels are we using? Because if you're using too many, then the player on the top level would kind of inset with the roof. That's why you can't go on many of the top, on any of the high bits of the roofs in Draenor.
I like that. Make it give you runecrafting XP for no reason.
No.
Well, since you put it like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's for no reason, so...
Scary asked, would it be possible to add a right-click face option on the compass to specifically look in certain directions? I imagine they're talking about the player positioning as opposed to the camera, but I could be wrong.
I'd have thought they'd have meant the camera, to be honest, because it's got the point north thing,
Oh, yeah.
and we'd be willing to do other directions on it if for the camera. I'd be a bit more surprised if we added a thing there that made the player bit swivel.
Yeah. Then camera?
It's the camera that it currently makes point north, so the other directions should be.
Oh, brilliant. Awesome. Grub asks, has the Theatre of Blood been made more challenging since its first original playtests with influences? Originally, they mentioned it wasn't particularly hard after the first few runs.
Well, that's why we brought them in to ask what they thought, and they said make it harder. I think from what you told me...
We've certainly done that. And basically, so the influence were in there the Thursday, Friday, 2 weeks ago. The following Monday, when we were back in work, we sat down and had 2.5 hours, went through all their feedback and came up with new ideas for each of the rooms that took it to that next level and addressed that issue of it being too easy. And yeah, I think we've done that. The players the last 2 days, they found it substantially more challenging, and they've been basically playing it for a day and a half, virtually non-stop. So we've got some proper time testing done. Really interesting. Also, Dead Wilson was
just about to raise,
probably one of the most interesting guys to have around, because he was in the first playtest and around for the second playtest. So he really acknowledged that, okay, they've listened to this feedback and he saw the difference. And so, yeah.
I might
sure.
be wrong, but from what I've seen over the last day and a half being around them, I don't think they managed to do start to finish with the supplies that they took in without skipping waves. So they have done from start to finish and they've killed all of the bosses, but I don't think they managed to do it as a group. So
I don't think they've done a full run without dying.
No.
So.
No, definitely not without dying. There's been many deaths, especially if
you can't skip waves.
Yeah, you can't skip waves when you're in the real one. We have a way to skip them inside for testing. So you do one boss and then it's okay.
If I want to test the final boss, I don't want to have to do the other 5 bosses before I get to the final boss every single time. So yes, we can skip it in testing.
We should probably remember to take that out before launch, otherwise
I'll try my best.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
At least we left in the debug message, it spits out to tell us when somebody activates it, so if it starts coming up from the live game.
Right. Marshall asks, what are the team's plans after Theatre of Blood?
Well, what I do know is that towards the end of June, the team's going to be getting together and starting to look at what big ideas we want to take forward, much like we do every year, and start to look at what we want to announce at RuneFest and things like that. So next year-long plans are getting sorted then. As for the next few months, there's still the load of things on the cards from the last RuneFest. And we talked about the Troll Quest, we've talked about Farming Guild, there's a bunch of different things that are sat there, and of course the Oddie Night nerf. But yeah.
And we talked about a Raids 1 quality of life batch 2.
Yeah, we did.
I'd really like to see that.
Yeah, we got the
Raids 1 batch as well, not
Yes.
Raids 1 batch 2. That would sound weird.
And then Rev Cave rewards and Bounty Hunter as well, both things that we've got in the pipeline ready to work on. I know that Mod Ghost is right there. It's not him, it's Mod West. I was just staring into your eyes. And
Mod Ghost is right there.
Got anything we can say about death?
I don't have an update at the moment, unfortunately, but obviously we're aware of Death Mechanics. Survey went out, the feedback was put together, I believe.
I have an update.
Oh.
Death.
Swede did get back to me with some results from the survey yesterday. Cool. The general consensus is that, if you don't know, the survey we put out talked about a new death system, which is essentially a grave system where your items go into this grave system. I caught you that time. Now you're probably completely off track.
Oh, sorry. Your items go
So
into this
when
place.
you die, your items go into an actual grave system, but they stay around if you log out. They stay around if you go across an update. They'll follow you to another world as well. Now, this grave will appear pretty much where you died, but will last only so long, say 20 minutes. Now, that timer will actually only go down when you're currently logged in. So if you get kicked offline by DC or whatever happens, you are not going to be any worse off. Where currently, even though they last for an hour, you are. That's the core of it. We need to put some risk back in death and provide a fairer system. Now, the feedback from the survey was that people are very much on board with this. There was some concern about the 20 minutes, and so potentially looking at making that a little longer, but there's still open to debate with the team. The biggest concern is around like Ultimate Iron Men, and obviously the fact they have certain metas surrounding how they use death currently. So we'd have to address that. But
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if we managed to leave them, broadly speaking, as they are, because frankly it's not them that we're having the trouble with the item sinks over.
Yeah.
So even though we wouldn't guarantee it's going to be exactly the same, we'd be aiming to most likely recreate roughly what they've got so that their metas are still their metas. And meanwhile, the rest of the game should hopefully function a bit better from it. It's worth noting that if you've got an hour to get back, so if you're online, there's probably nowhere you're not going to be able to get to. But if you're having connection problems, you might really suffer from that. Or if you can't remember which world you were on, so which has been a thing. People have said, Ash, can you tell me what world I died on? 'Cause it was like half an hour ago and I can't find it. So, I don't know. I'm not always at work either to find out these things. But by making the timer count only while you're logged in and to work on any world, like I die on World 2, this one does, I don't know, either I can't connect or I don't want to reconnect, I just go out to the pub or something to calm my nerves. Come back a week later after 3 game reboots. Can't remember which world it was, that's all right. Log into any other world, walk to that spot, I should find my the gravestone equivalent we'd be putting there when I get there. And provided it's not been that much in-game time, there's my stuff. And I believe we talked about some penalty as well, we have for other existing gravestone places.
So there's quite a few chat questions, but I'm just going to move on to another question here just because it kind of links in pretty well. It comes from Ben Torkey, which is the game integrity post and update was a few months ago now. When are you going to further discuss or implement the proposed things? It's been a long time since.
Well, I think Kieran said that Beyond Theatre of Blood, that's something we get back to, along with the other qual batches we promised and the other things Isa mentioned.
Absolutely.
It's worth mentioning also about death before we move on, if you don't mind.
Yes, absolutely, please.
Thank you. That currently, if you die in an instanced area, your items are just gone. And that's not ideal, because you can't always tell if you're in an instanced area. So while that's the way the game's been since like 2006 onwards when we got instanced areas, we are, with this gravestone proposal, we'd be able to put the items outside it for you. And the design we were going with would not suffer from the same problem that the Queen Black Dragon famously had, and I think Nomad to a lesser extent, where too many people died and all their items just deleted each other outside and everything got lost.
That happened quite a few times. It also happened at Branches of Darkmire. What was it? It wasn't Rannis you killed, was it? It was one of those.
Well, we know how to make it not happen in Old School.
Let's answer some questions in the chat because Maz has collected quite a few. If you have any more, just at RuneScape. The first one is, will Raids 2 punish people for not going in as a full team of 5?
in what sense would it punish people? It punishes people in that it's going to be a harder experience because you've got less people to take down the bosses.
Mm-hmm. There's no scaling going on in here. Mm-hmm. You turn up with a party of 2, you get the same things thrown at you as a party of 5 would. So bring more people, they may be helpful to you.
Yeah.
If you choose not to, and you can still do it, well done. That's fewer people with whom you'd have to split the loot.
Brilliant. Will the new weapon rewarded from A Taste of Hope be helpful in the new raids? within the Theatre of Blood is what
I can't see the Evander's Flail being useful inside
I also agree.
the Theatre of Blood.
They do have relatively okay drops, those Firewatch, though. I know that Ed gave them a pretty tantalising drop table, so maybe kill some of them.
You'll have seen that rather a lot of the things in there that we've shown pictures of are almost invariably not vampires.
Cool. Any chance we can get the concept art for Theatre of Blood released as wallpapers? The one for the Maiden is fantastic.
I do believe we have a gallery of lots of the concept arts for wallpapers. If Mod Stone is watching, he'll probably put a link into the chat. If not, then it might be on Twitter, and we can tweet out a new link. But yeah, sure. Most of them are already there, I think. So,
Cool. Fantastic. Right. Davis660 asks, could the agility skill cape be given more uses per day? At the moment, you can refill your energy once a day, and it doesn't feel like much of a reward. 3 uses seems fair. Or how about making it do something else, like never failing obstacles? Agility, I presume. Obstacles.
Probably the agility ones.
this face means no. From me, like my personal opinion, I'm not a fan.
I mean, I think the Explorer's Ring is kind of for that anyway, personally. But
yeah, I don't mind the idea of it not failing obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
If there are obstacles, like low-level obstacles that you can fail, because those are pretty damn annoying. And when you're a master of agility, you'd expect that you can walk across a slippery log.
A lot of plugging in.
Yeah, but in terms of the other perks, I wouldn't want it to have more other than that. And in terms of more uses, I'm just generally not a fan of increasing them, but I could be wrong.
Cool. Okay. Panuzo asks, you frequently comment about parts of the game being a mess to work with or poorly coded. What parts of the code base that you work with are particularly well structured, scalable, or modular, and you enjoy working with? Maz, have you got a microphone?
If you crawl behind the sofa, you can shout very loudly.
The
and
ones that you
everyone
work
else.
yourselves.
Basically.
But you can't choose the ones that you've reworked yourself. No, you can, of course.
I'd find it really quite difficult to answer in that.
Kieran? Anything in particular?
Raids code. Both for Chambers of Zerek and Theatre of Blood. The systems that Ash wrote for them make it so easy to plug in as many runes as you really please. And they all pretty much work independently of the raid system itself. So,
Thank you.
Yourself? Or Maz? Anything on the top of your head?
Well, I think, the one I rewrote was Herblore, obviously, the making of potions, so it's now data-driven, which is much easier to plug in.
It's true, I've plugged in there and it was really quite easy. Thanks, Maz.
And I think a lot of our interfaces as well, like the menu interface and the one I did recently with not Theatre of Blood,
Challenge mode.
Challenge mode, yes.
Cool.
I don't remember that one being quite so easily coded, but I'm glad you managed it, because I wouldn't want to. What have you rewritten? I know you've done some pretty heavy restructuring of some things, haven't you?
I've done a lot of fletching rewrites. I've done pickpocketing, drinking potions.
Pickpocketing. Yeah, that's really nice to work. I've not been in the fletching code myself, actually, for
Don't
quite
think
some
we've really
time.
had to touch it since, but yeah, drinking potions was a big one. Making that work together, because I think at one point it was basically custom code for every single dose of the same potion.
Yep.
And it was a bit ridiculous.
That was...
Now it's all centralized to a nice system. So there's loads more that I can't remember. But to be honest, it's half the time I really enjoy writing
enjoy
code.
doing that stuff.
It's when I'm replacing bad code with good code.
For what it's worth, I can cite the Slayer assignment system, because although I sort of plugged in the rewritten version for Old School back in 2015, it wasn't my code design. I adapted it from what Mod Pneumatic, I think his name was, did in RS3 back in
That's right.
yeah, when the Smoke and Kills quest came out. So that's not my code design, therefore I don't mind saying I like plugging into it now.
I think one of my most satisfying ones was when I got to delete code that I'd created back in 2006 and rewrite it.
What code was that?
The enchanting crossbow bolts.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, those
I
configs,
don't know, I'd been in
Maz.
there for the make all update or something like that, and I don't think it was that bad when I went through.
It's still more satisfying to delete old stuff.
Those...
It's harder to remember the good code because you don't think much of it. You just plug in and you're done. You spend 7 hours plugging in something basic when it's bad code, so it sticks around a little more. The skip countdown feature for Barber Salt All I added was a right click on the ladder that allowed you to skip the countdown, so you don't have to wait 30 seconds before you start the next round, which people just got around by exiting their party and recreating a party because it was still faster. But adding that skip countdown, oh my lord. I was reading like 8 different files trying to chase out what the hell happened at the start of a wave. It was ridiculous. Just to skip a timer, which I thought would be 10 minutes. Really wasn't.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Right, 5 minutes, and we'll send you on over to the PC to show off some of the fantastic graphics you've been working
I
on.
could probably do with making one more scene.
Do you want to set off over and set off?
Yeah.
That's okay. Awesome. And we'll answer a couple of more questions while you're setting up. Riku asks, would it be possible to change it so that non-Iron Men are able to visit an Iron Man's house? It makes sense that Iron Men can't visit non-Iron Man's house. This is how he's written it. But it seems a bit silly to not have it the other way around.
They could light burners and everything for them, so no.
Plus, as well, you're an Iron Man, not meant to have any friends, so.
I mean, obviously, we could go into a house, right, and probably limit any feature another player could potentially benefit by them.
And hope we catch all future ones as well.
But that's opening a kettle of fish, and just stopping them going in is easier.
Is it opening a kettle
Well,
of fish?
it's not just about easy. I mean, we're not scared of doing hard things, otherwise we'd never have rewritten the farming timer or tried raid stuff. But
What?
it's not about the easiness so much as the risk when you get it wrong. Like, for players say, oh, just catch all these things and it'll be fine. We've thought of everything that you've got now, and we're sure you'll remember anything that you add in future. And sure, we could try for that, but if we ever forget one, the consequences really do matter. So, given the impact if we get one of those wrong, it's not just easier to put a blanket check on, it's considerably safer, because that risk is a real thing, and I do not think players would be any more forgiving if we get another one of those than they were when we had one before.
What's so funny?
You're meant to say open that can of worms. A different kettle of fish is a different...
Yeah, it's not the same kettle of fish.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a whole different kettle of fish. What you're trying to say is opening a can of worms, but let's not worry about
I
it.
like a mixed metaphor, but I think this boat has already flown.
Candy Clover asks, that sounds like a very... Candy Clover asks, can you add a permanent log fire to Corsair Curse's resource area for cooking fish, similar to how the Barbarian Village has a spot as well? Should it help free to play?
It's not like it's short of trees around there, is it? I mean, there's a town round there, so it's not unreasonable that somebody in the town might have a cooking range. So I don't really mind.
Cool. Right. Adamina asks, could the tar monster spawn locations be looked at near Suliacep trees? There is one in particular near the middle Suliacep tree, which spawns and makes it almost impossible to chop trees, or mushrooms, I guess.
So that entire swamp is supposed to be dangerous, and therefore the Suliacep trees are quite rewarding. So either stun the tarboat beast or kill it.
I actually so there's this. I know what they're on about. There's one tree in the middle. It's the one tree in the middle. Now, so I don't think it's perfect at the minute, because actually the quickest way to deal with it is to hop worlds to find one that there isn't one there.
Yeah. I don't like when we incentivize hopping.
So maybe it's worth looking at and seeing what we can do to actually make that. So either hopping is not the best solution, or you deal with it and that's a better solution.
Cool. Right. Well, are you ready, Mod Ghost?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Sure, why not? Great. Well, we're going to hand you on over to Mod Ghost at the PC to preview all the great graphics that have been worked on throughout Theatre of Blood. So, see you in a bit.
Okay, so this week we've pretty much run out of new things to show you, so we thought we would go through everything we've shown you previously. It's not a bad idea, because we're nearing release now.
You've got a new animation.
There are some new animations thrown in at some point, I'm sure there are, there must be, I've done a lot. But this is the Maiden, that's the first one that we showed you. I'll just let you soak that up. Okay, I suppose I just could explain what she's doing. Actually, I shouldn't do that, should I? No, don't explain what she's doing. That's a bad idea. Right, okay, so this is the Pestilent Bloat. He's walking about. He's smelly. And he's got loads of flies around him. That's his thing. Okay, we will move on to Sotetseg next. This one's kind of cool. So this is like a larger version of a Night Beast, which has been experimented on. He's very big in game. His colour scheme's red, just to match the ambience of the theatre. He's got a nice red glow to him. And you can see a few attacks and walks on screen there as well. Okay, so this is the Nilicus. There are 3 Nilicus. I won't go into too much detail what they all do. You have to wait until release for that. But it's kind of glaringly obvious. Okay, right, moving on. So this is Zarpus. I really liked the flying animation with this. I didn't really nail it with the gargoyles, so it was a good opportunity to go back and try another flying NPC. So the flying animation on this is so much better now. Also, I particularly like this one where he's taking off just here. That's on the far right of the screen, in case you can't see my cursor. They can't. Okay, you can't see my cursor. So far right, he really kind of like has a lot of power when he actually takes to the air. So I really like that one. Now we've got Verzig. So these are human form animations. There's just a few of them here. So I particularly like this one on the far left, where she kind of falls back in her chair with the immense power of her magic, and then she flies back and smacks into the chains behind her. And we've also got the transformation into the vampire just here on this side of the screen too. And I'm just going to delete this one image just so I can enlarge that.
It's new.
Ooh, that was a lot of fun to do that one. I enjoyed that a lot. And then we'll just move on to Verzig Vampire. This is the final one that I have to show you. So we've got her idol just here and some other attacks down the side. So these were the animations that I found the most fun to do. They're very punchy, they're very fun, they're very punctuated. So lots of good times creating these animes. And that is everything I have to show you. I'm done. So we'll move back to this. Me, hello. And goodbye.
Well done, Mod Ghost. That looks absolutely fantastic. Great work to everybody who worked on that as well, Mod West and Mod Rye. No, please do. No, please come on. The poor unfortunate souls who will be entering the Theatre of Blood on the 7th of June. Yes, next week. That's really close. Frighteningly close. How are you feeling, guys?
I feel really good.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
Feeling confident? Do you think the player visits have really definitely helped out? With?
Made a huge difference, yeah.
Yeah. Great.
I think we're basically ready to sign off on balancing, so...
Excellent.
Yeah, we're looking really good, and it's been like a pleasure plugging in mechanics alongside those animations, so it's worked so well.
Cool. We do, in about 20 odd minutes, we're going to invite Mod Surma on, and we'll talk about the music track in that final boss fight with Lady Verzik. That'll be a ton of fun to listen to. It's quite interesting how you've done the soundtrack as well, some unique things we've never done with audio before. But moving on to questions, Iamon Morris asks, currently Xeric's amulet uses the default teleportation animation. Could we change the animation to the one from the arcade spellbook, or perhaps a unique one?
Well, now we've got one from the arcade spellbook, that's certainly something we can plug in.
Cool. Awesome. From the chat, a couple of questions from the chat as well are queued up. So, will we need to use silver weapons other than the Evander's Flail, like silver bolts or arrows, to kill vampires in the Theatre of Blood? I think we kind of asked this one, but I think it's worth reiterating.
So the only vampire you fight is actually Lady Verzik herself, and you don't need silver weapons to harm her. Essentially, the reason that vampires can actually dodge attacks is because they sort of they can mind read what you're going to do with your weapon.
And they're very agile usually.
And then they use their agility to avoid it. Now, if she mind reads what you're going to do, she's not agile enough to actually dodge it, so she still gets hit by it.
Is that because half the time she's sitting down and then she hangs on a coat hanger? I guess that's not really great for the dodging.
No.
Yeah, it's a built-in coat hanger.
It's the best solution to the law. But that's why in the Taste of Hope quest you make the Evander's Flail, because a flail is unpredictable, and that's what you make it with the blessed sickle on the end, so you still got the silver.
Good question in the chat, worth asking. Possible pet? possible pet? from
There's
the
always a
theatre?
pet.
Yeah?
Of course there's a pet.
Just said no.
It's just said no. Do you think they would have been upset or happy? I never know anymore.
The pet's are already plugged in.
You
Who
if
gave
you said
us-
no, we could have got like a first day pet and be like, was I meant to get this? We're like, oh man, we forgot to take it out.
Well, it's not always a surprise to them when a pet turns up because it's written on the pet list in the POH.
Oh, that's true, actually. I forget about that. Somebody asks, who gave the steel boots to the mage near the Theatre of Blood? One of the mercenaries.
They've got steel boots on as a
You know, I
mage.
did realise, I recognised that in QA actually, and it was a day before release, and honestly, I didn't think anyone would notice and would be able to sneak in a fix. Then it was the week after, and somebody noticed.
Mod West has claimed credit in the
It is
chat.
Mod West, so well
Is
done.
it possible that he's just a badly dressed mage?
No, because he's wearing ancestral. He's suited up. All those mercenaries are suited up to go in that theatre, and for some reason he's just wearing steel boots.
I think some people just don't have expensive shoes, and we all need to learn to get used to that.
Mod West said
Mod-
they're silver boots for kicking vampires.
Yeah, there you go. It's law reasons.
Ah.
That's why. Will we need to complete the Mayaki quest line to access the Theatre of Blood?
No, you don't. So all you need to do is have access to Mauritania, and you can get to the Theatre of Blood itself the same way you would, like, if you wanted to get to the quest start potentially for Taste of Hope. But that said, you will have a better experience if you've done the quest, because defeating the Taste of Hope quest will actually give you a teleport directly to the Theatre of Blood lobby area. So you might find it helpful.
Rather helpful, yeah.
Cool. Question for all, whose stream are you watching for the Theatre of Blood release?
I'm going to load as many Twitch streams as my laptop will allow me.
We
to.
usually multi-Twitch everything, don't we?
I'm probably going to bring a tablet, my phone, and just have literally as much as I can. And I've just copped myself a new monitor, so that will at least me have 2 more streams on there. So, but I mean, if the givens. I actually want to see some of the people that came last week because they don't know the changes that we've made, and I want to see their reactions when they inevitably die, which they will many times. So yeah, probably see what Wooks gets up to. He's always a very interesting person to watch, especially with new content. He likes to break things. And then, you know, your usual suspects, Boaty and the such like.
To be honest, I think I'll be spending a lot of that day looking at the game's error logs and reading through the code when people say things aren't acting as they'd expect them to act, and ascertaining whether they're meant to or whether the players just haven't quite got the hang of what it is rather than before saying it's clearly broken.
It's always great when you're an artist or CM and you're not going to be involved with the hot fixing going on. While as devs and QA to some degree as well, will be just sat there looking for bugs and fixing bugs as they arise, and you don't really get to enjoy it
a
so
very
much.
intense day.
It's a stressful day half the time.
Yeah, I've seen a few big launches over the years, like the day Summoning came out, or that was a fun one. I rather enjoyed towards the end of the day where the developer, and who's no longer with us, by the way, and one of his colleagues were saying, he's been told, the players say that you no longer get herbs unless you've got the new pet out that helps you get more herbs. And, well, the dev laughed at the players and their grasp of probability, and for quite a few minutes until I quietly wandered over to tell him how to fix the bug he'd got where this was indeed the case. Couldn't resist, but that's the only reason I turned up that day. I wasn't feeling very well.
Plugged into a lot of code.
It really did.
A lot more than what you'd expect.
I do not envy him having written that skill, and he did pretty darn well considering. But it was not something one should send one dev to do, I'm thinking.
Cool.
Let's just hope it's a smooth launch.
Yes.
We've been
fingers crossed.
pretty good at that at least recently. So.
We have. In fact, a lot of our larger updates as well have been pretty smooth.
And we have been known to hotfix typos just to make sure the hotfix deploy is still working.
Yeah. Estimation for how long after release for the first Theatre of Blood completion?
I reckon like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say same realistically. 3 or 4 hours. What was
Should
it?
we do a bet? Should we do another bet on the whiteboard?
Can do.
We'll do that. Cool. Right. Sir asks.
It just occurred to me I could actually interfere with that. If I want to make it longer, I can use that laptop I've got that makes all the worlds turn off. Sorry.
Well, last time we did something like that, I think we got like a half day off as like a prize, so it'll be worth tinkering for.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sir asks, how do each of the mods on the sofa feel about the current polling system? Does it hold them back from doing their work? Do they appreciate the connection to the community? And if they were to change the polling system, what would you change?
Ooh.
I think this is more your area.
Asking the real questions.
Yeah. It is interesting because obviously we all know that there are different communities within the game that have different preferences as to what they want devs to spend time on or artists to spend time on and such like. So I think one of the things that we do differently now is there's a lot more of the feedback gathering process, so that when we do pitch a question into the poll system, I'm generally very confident that it's exactly what the players are expecting, which gives us the best chance of it potentially passing in a poll. Am I happy with the system? No. Would I like to change it? Yes. The main thing that I would want to change is hiding poll results initially, and then see how that fares, especially for pieces of content that, you know, there isn't a majority community backing for, such as PvP. I'd like to see how that fares when people can't just blindly vote, because I'd imagine that there's a very large portion of people out there that don't read dev blogs, that don't understand the intricate details of the poll questions, and as such they just go over majority, because it's like, I don't know myself, so I'm going to say that you guys seem like you know what you're voting on. I'm gonna help you out there.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point. Like the hiding results thing, that is, because I know I've looked through all the previous polls and pulled all the data together, and actually looked at, okay, over where are our average polls finishing with result, and over time that average has gone up. So we've got better at putting the right questions in, but a significant proportion of our poll results end between 73 and 77%.
Yeah.
So as soon as they're outside of that, people, I'm guessing that people just start to feel like I've not got much point in voting, sort of thing, because I can't change the result.
Actually, there's a perfect example of this, and this isn't to say that it was something that we wanted to pass. It was very valid in terms of feedback from the community, but for the Theatre of Blood, we pitched basically the same reward from the Rev Caves, which was the braces, so new best in slot van braces for ranged. Personally, I don't think we needed them because range is also very strong and it would just make blowpipe even better. But when the poll was due to close, it was 30 minutes before the poll was going to close, and we were actually calculating
It was a couple of dozen votes to pass.
We were looking at 31 votes 30 minutes before that poll closing, before it would have passed. And then someone tweeted that they didn't want it to pass and said everyone needs to go and vote now. And then what happened was, within the space of 2 minutes, there were 30 no votes, literally just 30. And at that point, you'd have needed something like 250 yes votes for it to have passed. If they hadn't have been able to see that, it would very likely that it would have passed. And it's not saying that it should have, for my own opinion, but for the community, I'd imagine that it would have. And those are the kind of situations that, you know, it clearly shows that you can have an influence.
I mean, it does work both ways, though, sadly, as well. You have to think that there is a concern that if we do hide the results, people who vote in a nice way, like if they're like, hey, it's close to passing, it doesn't affect me, but I don't mind it.
Yeah, exactly.
You people vote yes then as well, whereas without seeing that, they won't have that. It does work both ways, but a lot more commonly it's abused in a way that we'd rather it didn't, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we can all think of reasons why we'd like it. In fact, we offered to hide the poll results in the previous poll. Unfortunately, we went and put that to the community and it failed. So that's why we didn't do it years ago. It's not that we never thought of it.
Yeah.
But we could have just, we can certainly say, sorry, for the sake of the poll system, we need to make this change. Frankly, I think a lot of players would be up for it. Many of them talking in the chat now. So hopefully we'd get away with violating that previous poll question and just doing it because it probably will go better. We can also revisit the topic of who gets to vote in which kinds of poll. A bit more controversial, that one, but not all sections of the community think the same way as each other.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that just before we finished it, is that it's a very common thing where a lot of people, especially again for PvPers, it's like, why don't you just make it so only PvPers can vote in PvP-related polls? And just before I joined Jagex, I thought that was a really easy solution. It's like, why don't you just do that? It's easy. Until you think about it and you think of all the ways that people can abuse it and all of the different caveats and how do you correctly, portion off this section of a community without impacting the other, because like a PvP update could bring in weapons that PVMers could use, and at that point a PVMer has the right to vote on a PvP related update because that weapon could impact it, just like with when we looked at the PvP armors. Eventually we said that they wouldn't work in PVM, but if we hadn't of, that's a big impact on PVM as well, and they need to be able to vote on there. So I actually don't think I think it would work if we could do it properly, but I can't think of a nice way that you could segregate the communities into what you are and aren't allowed to poll on. In the polls. So I think, baby steps, hide the results first and just see what impact that has. That's what I'd love to do.
Little baby steps, little things at a time, see how they impact. Do you have something to say?
Well, I was just wondering if we ran a survey once, not asking yes/no questions, but asking how people felt about the way the polls were going. Like, do we poll too much detail? Should we just do more stuff without polling it? Or should we be polling more things and making sure that all the details go through the community? Or did people feel it was about right? To my slight surprise, I was expecting people to be saying, we are fed up with waiting for a poll on all this trivial stuff, stop polling it. But like 70% of people seem to think that we should either poll about the amount that we do or poll even more stuff and have less flexibility. I was surprised by that one. Could be it's changed over the last couple of years though.
I think the other topic on the polling system is, do we feel frustrated when our stuff doesn't go through a poll? To be honest, I can't remember the last time there's something I wanted and that didn't go through. But the one maybe that stands out the most to me was the whole, you can reorder your spell book, reorder the prayer book. Because I felt like, well, that's the obvious solution. Everyone's complaining endlessly about the fact their spell moves every time we add a new one, or their certain prayer moves because we added a new prayer. And yeah, people are used to it because they use it for PvP all the time. They want it in a specific slot. So it's below their spec bar and stuff like that. And it's like, well, we offer the ultimate flexibility, then everyone can be happy. You can have it however you please. And it never quite hit me why it failed still. There was an argument about like being, all of a sudden when you do PVM, you have to research the best layout for your prayer books and stuff. Maybe I can understand that, but yeah, that was an interesting one. But at the end of the day, I feel like the poll system benefits us because it keeps us in check. I mean, if we do something that you guys don't want, what's the point of us doing it at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's how can you be frustrated if it gets voted on no, then quite clearly it's not something they wanted. So,
and it's not like we're going to say, oh, well, they didn't vote for that. Guess we'll come back in 2 months and poll something else. No, we're going to do something else instead right now. I'm
not making this game for myself or you guys.
Yeah.
I want to make content for you guys and give you a game that you can all enjoy. That's the best part of the job.
It really is a lot more satisfying as a dev when you do something and launch it and see customers engaging with it and reacting to it, compared to any feedback you could ever get from your manager, apart from, say, things like bonuses and pay rises. But the feedback from the players really means a heck of a lot compared to somebody wandering over from the executive office and saying, good boy, well done, now program this.
For the record, our executives do not come to our desk and pat us on the head and say, well done, good boy. However, if Phil was to come over and pat me on the head and say, well done, good boy, I'd probably feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. The last thing is I see a lot of people saying about repolls, and yeah, I think the only exception is to, it's not, some people think that we repoll stuff because we're trying to force it into the game. I'll personally say, hand on my heart, that is 100% not the case. We see something, it's very close to passing, we're like, okay, what could have made this pass? Is there some feedback that we can take into account that might change it so that it's just enough to tip it over the edge to make people think, okay, actually, yeah, that's exactly how we wanted it. So sometimes we'll change things and then repoll it. Sometimes if it's, for example, like 74.7%, it's just that was a bit weird. Maybe it just wasn't worded very well in the actual blog. So let's reword the blog and then put it back out again and see what happens. And, well, most cases it passes because, well, we listened, we changed it, we repolled, and then it passed. So
I mean, just to, the main point I just like to reiterate really is what Kieran said. Like, at the end of the day, it's very easy to think that there's some form of conspiracy like within the team, that we want everything to pass and we want this to pass because we want it. But we do work for you guys, essentially. Whatever you guys want is what we do. But I'm going to move on from this question. But that was a great discussion. That was great, that question. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, I liked it.
Sir. His name's Sir. Mod Ghost, there's a great question here for you, and I really like it. And for all the other artists as well, if you're aware. Have you ever put anything in Theatre of Blood or anything that you've worked on as like a little signature or anything Easter eggy?
I don't really do anything like that. I think Mod West does it. I don't know if Mod Y does it.
West loves it, doesn't it?
It's not really my thing. I think he put Wester Island in, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was one of his things.
Yeah, and Alfie added a few features to the map of Zaire, as I recall.
Odd place
Features.
What an odd place to put a dead rat.
That wasn't the one I was thinking of.
Were you thinking about the trees?
I was thinking about the trees and the kind of path leading from the two trees, the two long oval path.
Awesome. Right, okay, we have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to ask Mod Surma to come along and we'll shuffle a little bit so that you can come and shuffle on. Is he demanding a drink? What kind of diva-esque stuff is this?
He's a mic.
Oh, Mike. This action means drink. This action means Mike.
Does it?
This action means, well...
Just stop the actions. Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Mod Surma, how are you doing again?
Got one.
You doing okay? Oh God, he's so angry, it's Mike.
Good.
Yeah.
Maybe not so good.
Some assistance.
I've got this.
Okay, just hold it. Hold it like, hold the lapel like
It's in
an
audio,
actual- he works in audio. We've got great audio, I promise.
Can't put this on. Okay, is that good?
No, oh God, that's twist it. a
Is
little
that
bit.
twisted?
Under your arm.
Under my arm?
Oh,
like that.
Oh my god.
Do okay, just come here. Just twist this like this.
Wrong way.
We're in the
Down.
entertainment industry. I hope you're enjoying the show.
I can't watch.
Come sort it.
I just.
No, I got it. We got it.
Production, we need you.
We got this. We got this.
Well, it's
Really?
Shed. Come on, man.
Come on, man. What?
For the record, by the way, I remember that the last time that you were on the stream, we had this really awkward tension thing going on that the chat kept pointing out, and this really didn't help, did it?
No, it doesn't. Excellent. Sorry, where were we? Let's
There
start
wasn't
again.
tension, but they insisted there
Not at
was.
all.
Mod Surma, it's lovely to see you again.
Yes, great to have you back. Thank you.
How's it been working on Theatre of Blood? You've got a ton of songs out for a ton
Yeah,
of audio for us.
we have lots of cool stuff. I think me and Ian, Mod E&T, were kind of trying to calculate just how long or what kind of duration of stuff we have. I think it's going over at least an hour.
An hour.
Yeah, so it's I think be sure to check your music players out really for some great new content.
Hey.
I did notice that he wrote nearly 9 minutes of music for the Maidens room.
Yeah.
Not while you're fighting it, but for walking in and walking out at the beginning and
Yeah,
end.
that's right. I think like the average track is around seven minutes perhaps. Really.
Yeah, I queried why he'd done 9 minutes worth. He said, it just kept coming, and he
Sometimes
enjoying
it
himself
does.
so much, had to go with the artistic flow.
I think so.
The muse just would not shut up on his shoulder.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you just get under away in the musical compositional process, just wants to make that clear, but it kind of it just kind of writes itself sometimes. So you don't have to really think much about it.
So I think we counted 13 new audio tracks, Theatre of Blood. That's 7 from Ian, and 6 from you, I think.
Yes, that's right, and as well as 2 from Taste of Hope.
And 2 from Taste of Hope.
Which kind of gets added on.
Yeah, there's you got the 6 boss rooms, and there's 2 music tracks for every single one of those. One for when you're in the combat fight itself, and one for just when you're just wandering around the actual room itself outside of the fight.
Getting you psyched ready for the actual boss.
Yeah,
You ready?
It's awesome. I think it's easily the most audio tracks we've had in an update.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great, I think, as well, because I don't think from what I remember, we haven't really contributed too many new music tracks. I think it's having this, massive push is great. Really,
Previous
for Old
record,
School.
previous record was 9 new tracks for the Dragon Slayer 2 quest.
Oh right. Oh wow.
That
Okay,
was
so
recent.
we got a new
smashed it.
record.
Yeah.
Smashed it. Fantastic.
So
And you guys are doing a lot of sound effects now as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, come to think about it, when making the sound effects, you look at the art, you look at the animations. Mod Ghost's kind of animations really help kind of create the sound and get an idea what kind of I guess energy and vibe is required for those particular kind of animations.
So you were speaking about the average length of tracks being about 7 minutes. Ironically,
Yeah.
the one that we're going to be previewing is the track for Lady Verzik, the combat fight. So
Yes,
the final fight,
yeah.
the entire track we're going to be playing, it's about 7 minutes long on the dot, to be honest.
That is
I think
correct.
it's 6 minutes, 50 seconds or something.
I can't personally take credit for this particular piece of music, as this is mostly all Mod E&T. And I'll talk a bit more about what is unique about.
Yeah,
this
it's a very unique track, and I definitely want you to explain that to the chat. 'Cause
Yeah, absolutely.
You've done
So-
stuff we've never done before.
Yeah. So I think before we kind of started the whole process, myself and E&T, we sat down and we planned what we wanted to do, but we also felt as if for an update such as Theatre of Blood, that we needed something a bit special, something a bit new. It kind of deserved it really, and we wanted ourselves to kind of push ourselves. So we thought, okay, so why don't we maybe add one brand new instrument sound into the game? And we recently had an opera singer in who actually did some vocals on the Solak tracks for RuneScape. And we thought, okay, let's bring her in and let's record small individual notes of her singing, and these notes are now kind of being used in the track.
Yep.
So we are going to have, in fact, like an opera singer, which is which is made it into the piece of music, really.
In Old School RuneScape,
So-
there is no
Yeah.
voice.
To clarify, when you say like, because saying singing makes it sound like there's going to be like vocals and words. That's not the case, right?
Not
Like, you
quite,
explain-
no.
It's like it's an instrument. So when you play a note on a keyboard with MIDI, it plays. the note,
In
right?
fact, I think I remember like when we brought the opera singer in, she was a bit slightly confused because she wasn't singing a piece of music. She was just singing small duration of notes. It's like it's just like, well,
This professional opera singer looking
exactly
at us like with some
what's going
qubit
on
operation.
precisely. But nonetheless, she she was very willing to go ahead with it. But yeah, it is just simply sounds. It's not voice acting. It's not it's not sung phrases. It's not one continuous piece of music. It's just small individual sounds.
Yeah.
Try and keep your download small for people operating on mobile coming soon.
I just kind of want to play the song, but I'm going to pad out this 4 minutes beforehand because it really is good. We're going to be watching your guys' response
Yeah.
when it plays.
I have a real quick question, if you don't
Yes.
mind. Just in terms of the situation, I'm imagining it now. You're in the room, ready to record a sound, and you have to say to this opera singer, make a sound. Like, what do you say? You just make a sound. Just do it.
Wait, why did you even get her in? Not that easy, could we do this?
I've heard it. And I'm just like, how do you approach that? Because like with it, I guess with an artist.
Where did that come from? Wow.
Well, yeah.
Incredible talent there, really. But no, not quite. I think
Fear of Blood 2, I'll be there.
We ask her to kind of like sing a musical scale.
Oh, okay.
Or an arpeggio, and then we, later then, Modi and T would edited those individual notes, put them into the music system.
Okay.
And then away we went.
Yeah.
Really,
I'm just trying to compare because obviously with like artists and you want a piece of concept art, you'll say, okay, this character looks kind of like this. You have like an idea, imagination, but with music, it's very much like a
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think Modi and T really kind of conducted the session well.
Cool.
I guess just for those who aren't necessarily aware of who Modi and T is, just for those perhaps
OG.
the OG of old school music, really. He made bangers such as Sea Shanty 2, Autumn
banger.
Voyage, Waterfall. So you can expect lots of good things, really. And particularly, I think in this track, which Modi and T wrote. We welcome all sorts of feedback and comments from all the tracks that we wrote for the Theatre of Blood. So I guess just tweet us or whatever.
We did the theme song as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, the main.
But obviously,
main.
what's the order of Sea Shanty 2 and the theme tune? That's the thing. Really. So it's worth pointing out, of course, you're within a theatre. This Lady Verzik is a very operatic lady herself. She clearly enjoys the theatre. So I don't want to pad out any longer. I want to play this song right now and let you guys see, so we can watch your reactions. Okay, so can we have that queued up? Are we good?
I suppose.
Awesome. Right. Well, we're gonna leave you now. Thank you so much for watching. We're gonna be watching everything that you guys say. Quick reminder: Summer Special is still on. Check the Bonds interfacing game.
Theatre of Blood, 7th of June.
Theatre of Blood next Thursday. Let's go.
Exclamation mark membership.
Exclamation point membership. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.